For the last week, you've been hearing me talk about Diddy and his defense team, but did you know before it was Combs' defense team, it was Martin Shkreli's defense team, and also the NXIVM cult's defense team? Well, at least Marc Agnifilo was. Hey, I'm America's attorney. I've been a lawyer for over 23 years. I've helped over 20,000 clients, and today we're going to find out a little bit more about the lawyer that Sean Combs has chosen to try to win him his freedom. First up, we're talking the NXIVM cult case. NXIVM was a self-help organization founded by Keith Raniere in the 1990s that claimed to offer personal and professional development programs. Members would pay for expensive courses that would lead to their personal growth. However, in reality, NXIVM was actually running a subgroup called DOS, which involved a master-slave dynamic where women were coerced into sex with Raniere, branded with his initials, and subjected to blackmail if they tried to leave. In 2018, Raniere and several top members were arrested on trafficking charges, plus forced labor and racketeering. Does that sound familiar to you? It does to me. It must also to Marc Agnifilo because he represented the group's leader, Keith Raniere. Here's what Agnifilo tried for Raniere. Well, challenging the credibility of witnesses. That's pretty standard. The defense attorneys portrayed the individual witnesses as consenting adults who were disgruntled or seeking revenge after voluntarily participating in NXIVM's activities. But the real strategy that the defense used was asserting that the sexual relationships Raniere had with women within NXIVM, particularly within the secretive group DOS, were consensual. DOS was an all-female group where women were recruited as slaves to masters, and Raniere was predictably at the top of the hierarchy. The defense emphasized that these women were adults who made their own choices, including decisions to engage in sexual relationships with Raniere. They argued that there was no coercion involved and that the relationships were part of NXIVM's personal development and empowerment program. The team emphasized that NXIVM members voluntarily participated in its programs, even those that might seem extreme, such as branding or giving collateral, which is like incriminating or embarrassing material, as part of their commitment to the group. They argued that these practices were not criminal, but rather part of a consensual self-help structure. The defense argued that the women involved in DOS were not coerced or forced into their roles as slaves. They contended that these women willingly joined the group, knowing what it entailed, and that the branding and submission of collateral were symbolic acts, not ones meant to enslave or control them. At various points, Raniere's attorneys tried to call into question the methods used by the government during the investigation, including how evidence was gathered and how witnesses were persuaded to cooperate. They implied that the prosecution was building its case based on pressure and unreliable witnesses rather than solid factual evidence. Now, there were other ploys by the lawyers in that case that I don't have time to get into here today, but unfortunately for Agnifilo, this strategy did not work because Raniere was convicted of several charges and sentenced to 120 years in prison. Another well-known case of Marc Agnifilo is Martin Shkreli's securities fraud case. Martin Shkreli was an American investor and businessman whose biggest claim to infamy was being known for raising the price of the life-saving drug Daraprim used to treat toxoplasmosis and prevent malaria and other kinds of infections, and he raised the price by over 5,000%. In 2015, Shkreli was charged with securities fraud due to his mismanagement of MSMB Capital and MSMB Healthcare, and in his role as CEO of the biotech firm Retrofin. Shkreli was accused of defrauding investors by lying about the financial performance of his hedge funds, making bad investments, and then using money from Retrofin to pay back investors who had lost their money in his hedge funds. He also chose Agnifilo to represent him during the trial. Agnifilo's approach to defending Shkreli was different than his approach to defending Raniere, or what he will have to use in the Diddy case, because the alleged crimes were so different. But relevant to Diddy and his case was Agnifilo's argument that the crimes were done by subordinates, not by Shkreli himself. There was no RICO charge in the Shkreli case, and that's a huge differentiator between him and Diddy. Because if the RICO charge sticks, then all of the acts of anyone in the organization are attributable up to P Diddy. So that entire approach has to be scrapped if they can't beat the RICO charge. Now, notwithstanding the very, very vigorous defense, in 2017, Shkreli was convicted on 2 counts of securities fraud and 1 count of conspiracy to commit securities fraud, and he was sentenced to 7 years in prison, which means he's probably out and he might be watching this video at the same time that you are. While the track record I've shown you today isn't great, Marc Agnifilo has had his court wins, like when he won a full acquittal in an OCCA extortion and bribery case against union officials. So, knowing this, what are your thoughts on Combs' choice for representation? Do you think Agnifilo will be able to get a not guilty verdict on all counts? Drop your pro se opinion down below and let me know what you think. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and lawyer up with America's Attorney, because I will be back soon with more breakdowns and you don't want to miss that. I don't want you to miss that. See you, bye.